What's up, everybody? I hope everybody's well. I hope everybody's well. Just want to drop a quick one here. Well, maybe not too quick, but I wanted to give my thoughts and my opinions about Superman. It's been a hyped up movie people have been going to see. I'm still in a lot here as people are walking in. I just finished watching it, so I wanted to drop my thoughts, my opinions about it. I grew up as a DC fan. I know that a lot of people in the last 10, 15 years or so really became Marvel fans, but I was always a DC fan. Batman, Superman, right? I grew up on watching the Justice League, the Super Friends, all that kind of stuff, right? So that was always my go-to. I do think that the storylines from the Marvel or the heroes in them, they always had problems. They always had issues, internal struggles. Their internal struggles were vastly better than the DC heroes. Um, so so I'm going to mention that in a little bit, but that was always my thing. I did kind of take some notes here. I don't know if I have to delete that out there. So I made some notes about it. So this is going to be a spoiler review. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, then whatever. Then tune off before I get too deep into it. But all right, so we're going to talk about it. So Superman, the story. This is obviously a rebranding and relaunch. DC has had issues. Marvel has completely kicked their butts within the last, again, 10, 15, whatever it is now, right? Probably like 12 years or so. Whenever the first Iron Man came out, the whole MCU has really absolutely decimated DC. And DC, to me, is still, in all honesty, still hasn't recovered. Even with this movie, they still have not recovered. I really haven't enjoyed any real DC movie. I'm trying to think too, right? I didn't like Robin Patterson's The Batman. I thought that the Dark Knight trilogy was probably the best. But and only the first two. I didn't like the whatever the third one was with Bane. I didn't really like that one. But that's my opinion. But this Superman is okay. It's just okay. It was not overwhelming. I'm sick of the underwear on the outside. It's come on, come on. I thought we were past that with Zack Snyder and all that. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I know a lot of people have nostalgia and they really like the whatever he came out like 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. But I think that time people got to let that go. And while I'm on that, um, I watch some other people, and there's a guy. His name is Nerd Roddick, and he was on Pierce Morgan talking about this movie, and they really long for the red, white, and blue. And he's Nerd Roddick. I think specifically was saying that he wants, this Superman is not the American patriot, kind of way. And I'm going to tell you, I like that. I don't, those in particular two heroes, Captain America and Superman. The old Superman, Truth, Justice, and American Way. That kind of stuff, right? And I'm not saying I'm uh, anti patriotic or anything like that, but I'm saying that we live in a vastly different world now where you gotta cater to all these different people, and so I appreciate I appreciated Captain America's persona in the MCU, and I appreciated Superman in this. You got to be expansive, and that becomes a very big talking point or topic, I should say, of the movie, this particular movie, because a big storyline is that one country that the U.S. is allied with wants to invade a smaller country that is very underwhelming when it comes to military power. Superman steps in and stops them from doing from the stronger country that's allied with the U.S. with invading another country. Um, Coincidentally, just a few weeks ago we had that. This movie was obviously shot probably a year or two ago. And all the edits and retakes and all that. But it's very on point with what we just went through a few weeks ago with the 12-day war. You guys, if you're paying attention, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So Superman, in my estimation, was on the right side of stepping in to stop the larger nation that is allied with the U.S. from going to invading another nation, all for resources, as we know. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Movie was very diverse. You know, a lot of times, you used to go to movies and I used to go to movies and play this little game, count the black people. But this movie had everybody in it, so I can appreciate that. Um, in this world, heroes already exist, which I don't like that. I think that what Marvel did was the right way. I think that the MCU, what they did was the right way. You got to introduce each and every character. The three other heroes that we met in the movie were Mr. Terrific, Hawk Girl, why there still has the name Hawk Girl, and I don't know. Again, throwbacks and relics of the past, and Green Lantern. Green Lantern, there's many iterations of Green Lantern. We got John Stewart, uh, Kyle Rayner. Um, what's the other one there? I can't think of the main one who's always in them. The airline, the flight pilot. And coincidentally, that movie was terrible too. The Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds, that was terrible too. But anyway, whatever that guy's name is. Anyway, so John Stewart is a lot of people grew up with John Stewart, became the one. I always thought that Kyle Rayner was pretty good. Again, I'm not a big gosh, I'm not a big comic book fan. I mostly watch the movies and TV and cartoons and stuff. I did read a comic book here or there, but I was never a follower of any one. But there's many iterations of Earth, and there's a couple of more, right? There's two more that are Jessica something, and there's another one of the future. So there's a few different Green Lanterns from Earth. I'm not going to go into that whole story about who Green Lanterns are and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, why I'm not going to go into all that. But anyway, Guy Gardner is, kind of a comic relief. He's okay. He's okay in a movie. I mean, Guy Gardner in the comic books and all that is kind of a jerk, and he definitely was in this movie. So that was consistent. Hot Girl, again, why are they still allowing that to be called like that? That could be a running joke. Like, why are you still calling me that? Call me Hawk Woman or whatever, or call me Shire, whatever her name is. So the biggest problem I had with her, and I thought the acting was pretty good for all these people, but I thought the biggest problem I had with her was she kept doing the stupid scream when she was about to attack. And I don't know if that's from the movies. I never saw it in the cartoons, but as soon as she's about to attack, she lets out this shriek. What is that? Why was that a good? Who? No, somebody said that. Somebody wrote this and thought this was a good idea after all these edits and recuts. And I want to take that out. Take that out of here. What is this? What is this garbage? Why is she yelling and screaming like this? Letting your enemy know you're coming. Is that supposed to be some type of intimidating war cry? It was horrible. It was horrible. She kept doing it. You know, and then she's not. And the other ones are not afraid to. What's interesting about this particular superhero movie is Superman is the only one who's not willing to kill. The other ones are. Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, and Hawk Girl are all ready to kill. In some instances, they do. Spoiler alert. Mr. Terrific, the Black Genius, kind of a Batman-ish type of character, genius. Superpowers is only his intelligence, and he weaponizes those to his T-spears and all that kind of stuff. But again, I think you got to introduce these people to an audience who don't know them, and they did not do the good job at that. I don't know why DC keeps trying to rush. Maybe if this movie is a big hit, that'll give other people at least a 3 series Netflix or whatever show to kind of introduce them. In the 3 series, I mean 3 episodes or something like that. Just really kind of introduction story, because people who don't know who they are, they don't know who they are, right? And they need to be introduced. They got that show, the Peacemaker, whatever it is. I've never watched it. I never knew who this dude was, and he doesn't seem like a very interesting character. He does show up as a cameo in the movie. That's played by John Cena. So, but I thought that the characters were all good. Mr. Terrific was kind of a throwback to black exploitation movies, right? Afro and all that kind of stuff. I kept waiting for this dude to say "Jive Turkey" any minute now. I kept waiting for him to say that, but it was okay. It was okay. It was okay for what it was. A lot of people don't like how limited Superman is in his powers and his abilities. I've always thought that all these superheroes are all way too overpowered. You can't do anything without Superman, without kryptonite. So, you always got to have some type of evening out factor, because if you win every fight, if you're too strong, too powerful, then it just it just kills the movie, right? You got to have a hero's journey, and unfortunately, there really is no kind of hero's journey. And now I'm thinking about this right now. I don't think there's a real hero's journey moment in it. It's just Superman gets weak sometime. He does it, and that's what Zack Snyder tried to do in his universe. Is Superman is trying to figure out who he was. There is a little bit of that in this, and his father has to tell him again, who you are and what your purpose is and all the kind of stuff, and all that. So continuing down the theme of his purpose, uh, a lot of people didn't like this particular part, but I'm kind of indifferent about it. Superman's parents, as Krypton is about to blow up, send him to Earth to rule over it and to tell them, the people down there are simple, and and all that, and rule over them and kill anyone who doesn't acquiesce to your will, and create this big harem of people, and kind of repopulate the earth in your image, kind of stuff. And a lot of people didn't like that about them. That is probably very close to the storyline of what's his name there, Invincible, that cartoon. um I'm indifferent to it. Because again, again, when you take a look at looking at Superman through the lens of, or any kind of type of comic book movie through the lens of what I'm going to call, an African American point of view, or a subjugated people's point of view, I should say. We understand that this is what happened, right? So this truth, justice, and always doing the right thing. No, people don't always do the right thing, you know. And there are people who came here and white people out and kidnapped other people. So that's the origin of much of who we are. So Superman, because of a new parentage, new way of looking at things, his foster parents or adoptive parents, um, instilled in him a different set of core values. And so, even though he never heard the message from his mother and father, from this Kryptonian mother and father, he never heard their message. Um, he was able to be, have a different ethos, a different factory installment, if you will, by his earthly parents, Martha and what's his name? Ken? What's his father's name? Whatever his name. Jonathan. Jonathan. Those two were able to give him and tell him to be a good man. And you, even though this was your purpose, who are you as an individual? Who are you as a man? And you had to fight against what they wanted you to do. So that was, I actually appreciated. I can take a different lens and say that type of Superman that we looked at from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, where truth, justice, the American way, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not being anti-patriotic. I'm saying that type of stuff is couched in secrecy and in the refusal to acknowledge the establishment of how the United States came to be about and what we stand for today. You might want to believe that this nation is good and this, that, and the other, but you take a look around and you read some history books, and you'll figure all that out. But that's a story for another day. Um, so I like the Superman was very limited, even though it was due to nothing that he had. He lost some fights and he was very limited and never got back up to full strength, but he kept going and kept persevering and kept trying and all that kind of stuff. So there's some lessons to be learned in that, right? You can get knocked down, you get back up again. All that was great. All that was great. There was too much monologuing, particularly at the end of the movie. There's too much monologuing. It's just, oh my God, the whole epic, battle fight scene was just too much monologuing. I mean, did these people not watch the Invincibles, right? You got me monologuing.
You sly dog! You got me monologuing. I can't believe.
Right? It was just too much monologuing by Superman, by Lex Luthor. He was the bad guy, obviously. Hates Superman just for hating Superman. Hates him for being an alien. Very much xenophobic and all that kind of stuff, right? So Superman has to tell him in a monologue, right? I'm just as human as you. I'm scared. I get up every day, but I got to put one foot in front of the other. He can fly. So what are we talking about here? So, but But yeah, so it was just too much monologuing. Um, Comedy, I didn't think landed a lot, and I went to see it twice just so I could really kind of put this together here. Some stuff was cute and funny. Crypto the dog was annoying after a while. He just was annoying because I don't like undisciplined dogs. I don't like undisciplined dogs. I just don't like them. Um, so that was annoying to me. There was another hero in there, Metamorphosis or Metamorpho, whatever his name is. I've always thought he was corny, so I thought it was ridiculous. I'm not. Yeah, I just and again he wasn't introduced to you. If you're looking at this, like where these people come from, how they get their powers, all this kind of stuff, right? So that was you got to introduce these people. Again, the comedy didn't land. I didn't think some of the stuff didn't land. Um, some of it was okay. Yeah, it just didn't land all the time. I can't think of anything in particular that didn't really, it just didn't land. Uh, and yeah, and then I got last notes here. It was just too much monologuing. Yeah, Superman monologue about being human and scared, and it was just too much monologuing. I did appreciate that the fact that they cloned Superman, and there's this other being that I never thought I never understood why they didn't give this guy more attention, and this is a bad guy, semi bad guy named Bizarro, and I think that the attempt to call this guy Ultraman, um, and again, I don't even know if this is from the comics, quite honestly. Again, I don't remember him from superhero stuff, but and he was kind of the clone version of him. Ultraman was kind of dumb, so that could have been Bizarro, and Bizarro had to be taken to another planet, and that's essentially what happened to this guy. In this, he got sucked into a black hole, so he may be back, he may not be. Is he really bad? You don't really know, but I never thought that it really explored any real big villain for Superman, and Bizarro would be one that could actually give him a fight and a challenge. So it was a fight and a challenge and all that kind of stuff. Um, so after that fight's over, between Ultraman and Superman, he gets knocked. He gets Mr. Terrific shows up and says, "Hey, stop playing around. We got work to do or whatever." And then he says, "I'm not playing around. I'm doing important stuff." That didn't land. That's an example. It's not funny. And, the director James Gunn, did fantastic movies. All three of the Guardians of the Galaxy that he directed were all fantastic. So how he kind of missed on this one, and trying to be. I think he was trying to walk this line of being progressive because he had a very progressive um, message in it, a lot of diversity in the movie, and also a good message about invasions of other countries and all that. And I think he was trying to hold on to the nostalgia of the past. I think you got to let that go. The uniform, I think you got to let that go. Superman can be great. I know that people want to again hold back to this idea of what was going on before. But Superman, he's got to be more. He's got to be more. These beings, these heroes, really kind of set the tone. I know people like to talk about religion and stuff, but there's a lot of messages and themes that go on in these superhero movies, right? The Dark Knight, Batman has this code, and he is about justice and vengeance and all this, but he doesn't kill, right? You take the Iron Man um, progression through the MCU, and you look at how he was this death dealer of arms, and has an epiphany, and then does everything he can within his power to stop and prevent who he was, tries to save the world and tell the world that this problem is coming, and at the end he sacrifices his life for the greater good. That was the story arc of Iron Man, the story arc of Captain America, right? A nobody kid who still is in his heart is a good man, takes the serum, becomes an even better man because now he's using his power and strength for the good, protector and all that, and then his arc at the end, right? His arc at the end, becoming worthy enough to wield Thor's hammer. You look at Thor, and a brazen kid who enjoys the fight, and at one point in his time, becomes unworthy and then has to gain his worthiness back. That's a storyline in an arc. And you got to you got to be able to give that to these DC heroes. And these DC heroes in these types of arcs help people to realize that you can become something better. No matter what your past was, you can be better. No matter what your past was, you can learn from it and you can grow from it and you can be better. And Superman, kind of has that where he understands that he was sent here. Eventually, he understands that he was sent here to be this monster, to be, a dictator, an authoritarian. But because of good people around him, he says he makes a different choice in life. And in the movie, he saves, lesser beings. He saves a dog. He saves a squirrel. He stops the war because people are going to die and he just can't handle it. They're fighting a big monster, a big kaiju monster, and they being, the three heroes, Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, Superman, and Mr. Terrific. All four of them are fighting this big kaiju, and Superman is upset because these other ones are willing to kill, and he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that ethic about him. So, I think they really got to hone in on that. And a lot of people, gain the morality not from religion. Some do, but a lot of people gain it from reading comic books and understanding how to behave and how to be a better man, a better woman, a better person. So I think that they really got to push that in the same way that Marvel did. No, but this would be, if anybody would ask my opinion, you got to find that formula, find that sweet spot, and understand that a lot of these characters, not a lot of them, but many characters were born out of the times that they came into existence. You look at Captain America and Superman; they were born during the time of World War II, excuse me, and this menace that was going on across the way, and they tried to get the American public, American youth, American young men in particular, to embrace these things and go fight against the Nazis. And that's admirable. But we have other things now, and you got to take advantage of that and really try to gear these young men into the right path in life. So, when you have heroes that are willing to kill, that becomes problematic, and they do kill. That becomes problematic as far as an ethical and morals and values, right? So, I just want to drop that. I thought it was okay. I would give it, out of 10, man, I would probably give it a 6.5 or 7. Take out the monologuing. I thought that the kaiju was kind of corny. I thought that the eventual, the big rift, the whole black hole big rift, building out dimensions was kind of corny. But obviously that's going to point into bigger problems coming into the world, or to Earth. I thought that they could have did a different or better job with that. The monologuing, Superman's uniform, which I've always hated. Why these guys got their underwear on the outside? Even as a kid, I never understood that. And there's a joke about there's a joke about, one of those jokes about what's his name there? Oh man, I can't think of his name. Guy who played Chuck Norris. I couldn't think of his name, right? Chuck Norris and Superman got into an arm wrestling match or got into a fight, and the loser had to wear his underwear on the outside. So I just don't understand why they keep having to do that. So the storyline was Lex Luthor as a villain was not working. It was not working for me. I mean, it just wasn't working. Not that the acting was bad. It's just the storyline in his acting was just not up to par. Lois was okay. Lois was good. Lois was the acting I thought was good. Just to carry through and all that. I think that the tweaks that I mentioned, get rid of this old nostalgic Superman, get rid of the uniform. He's got it. I think that Superman should wrestle with himself, and I think that Zack Snyder was onto something, wrestling with himself. He's gotta wrestle with himself and his powers and how much he can do. And every time he tries to do good, this was Zack Snyder's Superman. Every time he tries to do something good, there's always some mistakes, some mess ups. He can't save everyone. So should he even try? I think that's a perfect arc for Superman. And I thought that they tried to do that in here, but he tried to save everyone, saving squirrels and whatnot. So, but let me know your thoughts, your opinions. If you saw the movie, dang it, I lost my keys. If you saw the movie, I mean, what do you think about it? Am I excited about what the future holds for Superman? Again, at the end, they showed Supergirl, which I knew that was coming, and there's some other rumors that are going on. They obviously there may be a Green Lantern movie or TV show coming up, or I don't know if that's still happening. Um, the dude who played Aquaman, I can't remember his name right now, but he may be playing Lobo. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you don't know, that may be coming. Obviously, they got to create a Batman because we saw Gotham City flashed in the movie. So, Wonder Woman's probably going to be coming. So there's a lot of work to be done. I'm kind of excited. I would say I'm excited about it, but you got to fix these things and stop trying to hold on to the past and all these nostalgic people. There's a new generation, right? Gen Z, Gen A's, and this could set the tone for them. You just got to set the right thing, and for the love of God, get rid of of that uniform. This is the third, fourth time I'm saying it. And red, you can keep the colors, right? Obviously it's supposed to be similar to red, white, and blue, but you got to get rid of it. Again, watch the Invincibles, right? No capes. And, no capes.
Vortex, no kicks.
The big long cape. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but I don't know. I've just never been a fan of it. So let me know your thoughts, your opinions. Hit me in the comment section. I just wanted to drop this and let you know my thoughts, my opinions. Take care. Much love and peace.